This is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. This is power equilibrating in couples. I used in my book an example of a fictional couple that actually meets someone else that is of a gender of the wife of that person. That can be used. It can be used as a meeting the person of the male gender and used as analogy. Certain things. That video is very slow today. My internet is very slow. Also, certain rules apply, and thus this is first to know. When person uses a speaker, child's nature to in that spouse evoke the sense of superiority, and that person is wanted in actually professional relationship, and it is a stranger, then that is, unless that spouse is sick, and we don't invent that spouse is in some way not in a state of emotional not harm, is for instance crying. What is a child's nature in that person that person is not evoking? Normal one, non-pathological one, is a person that feels strong sense of hurt and cries and search for consolation. We all have such state, and that then is appropriate too much to console that person, not in coldness to evoke role of the spouse or a professional role. If such is not the case, and the couple is in a normal relationship dynamic, be it in professional or personal function combined, we do not try to, let's say that it is a female, downgrade that female's status of the spouse by trying to defeminize her. So what does that mean? When in speech the person, and I'm talking about the role now of, let's imagine, a man. If the person that is a female addresses on spouse in such way that evokes, for instance, in sweeties and honeys, an immature child, that we have to do by corresponding remediative action towards spouse, remediate by giving support to spouse to underline our willingness to have continuous relationship with that spouse, because that is a primal intent to win over the role of the spouse in that conversation, using often then, if that person does not need provision of any services, such as an excuse. Example of that: a person is not harmed, and though the spouse does not offer use of first name, using own title refers to the person who is the male to you in title, and reduces that spouse to Michelle, Jenny, or even worse, Han, Sweetie, and tries to not express actually own child nature, but tries to evoke in that person's sense of being not the spouse. So we look in that person's intent, contemptful gloating. Example: you are a man and you are accompanied by your wife, and I approach and say, "Hello, Dr. Richardson. How do you do, sir? My name is Dr. Chevalier. How is little Michelle here? Is she okay? And some, can add in extreme cases. Well, that is extreme, but you see, variations of such also evoke sense of superiority. Another example is you are a man and you are accompanied by a spouse, and I approach and say, "Hello, Dr. Jenkins. My name is Dr. Chevalier. Is that person that you are accompanied with okay? I mean, it seems to me that she's not so well." Or that is both situations are intense, listen to me carefully, to win over you as a primal partner instead of that spouse. And that should in you evoke protective feeling toward that spouse to confirm that you are in real time wanting to continue that relationship as is, as spouse in relation to that person that you brought. So you match then in statement to you and that woman that you consider a spouse. Remediative action is not to correct that person's action in anger or in resentment, but to elevate, to reduce anger and hurt, and that is always the rule. In person at risk of, depending on your response, pursuing divorce from you or separation, creation of a separation of that relationship. You don't want hostility. That is unwanted. You want to resolve that situation. So let's do the first example. "Hello, Dr. Richardson. My name is Dr. Chevalier. How do you do, sir?" And you say, "Oh, hello, Dr. Chevalier. My name is Dr. Richardson. This is my spouse. Her name is a Jennifer. Jennifer is actually a nurse practitioner, and she has a PhD in nurse practicing. Do you mind if she accompanies us, even though we are right now on a leisure time in that conversation? We're gonna discuss, let's say, an article." And you say, "Yes, by all means." "Jenny, how are you doing?" And you don't know Jenny. Is remediated by, when that comes from me, a female, or that blinking and presenting self as a person that is actually in that female's role as spouse superior. You remediate with, as a spouse, as a male, with statements such as, "Darling, this is a professional conversation. Would you like to contribute with your opinion on the subject, since you're a nurse practitioner, they are pertinent to this case?" That is one example. And so you remark then first sense of familiarity to that spouse by the darling and the appropriate one. And you also underline that that spouse has also profession, that when she's not providing that nursing for your child, and for if in sickness or some sort of in need or mediation for you, that person actually provides that to others based on own capacity and has such potential to participate. And so if I then go and say, as the start of the conversation, "Hello, Dr. Richardson." "Jenny, Jenny, Jenny." You say then, "Darling, this is very important that you know that I would really appreciate if you could participate and give us your opinion on a given article from your actual expertise, and define what it is that person that you are with, why you brought her, because that is always present. And second is when that person is present in only personal function. Use honorary titles. So explain to, to the person by action, and never take action to humiliate the other because you will create anger and sorrow. That's silly. Remediate by actual emotions toward that spouse to match that spouse up to the person you're talking to. That's it. That's all it takes. And the other one will say, okay, I did not realize I was trying to assume role of the spouse. Oh, or oh, I did not realize that I was trying to downgrade official and skill function of that person's spouse, and that is actually needed for that conversation. So if opposite is the case, compensate with statement to the spouse to match spouse up to the statement as compensation, remediation that is made in that presented situation. You may say as well, a darling, do you mind, because we are going to discuss this quite boring and strenuous article, if Dr. Chevalier and I, we discuss it in person. However, I want you to know that the dinner we have planned is on, and that I would prefer us to be alone, so the sooner I finish the better. And that spouse then, in that darling and that reassurance of familiarity, then address that person newly met by title, Dr. Chevalier, would you mind if we discuss that case in person? My wife would prefer to go to the spa. And that is an appropriate compensation, remediative action, correctional action. What is an inappropriate remediation and action? It is when we, in anger, bring a harm in that person, in sometimes non-intended to harm or impersonate spouse, a verbal or in physical appearance way, or when we try to evoke or immediately some sort of wrongdoings by actually evoking sorrow in self, and even worse, when we do the following. So I go, hello, Dr. Richardson, and ignore a wife. How about a coffee? Let's do a coffee. And then you go, yes, Dr. Chevalier, let's do so, as if that person was not there or not existed. That is personal and professional offense to own spouse. Remember that. And so, how to remediate that? It is to remediate by saying, Dr. She Richardson, would you like to accompany us? Because we will discuss this article that you also know and reviewed for me. And afterwards, we will go to dinner, darling. That's an example. Second example is, Dr. She Richardson, would you like to actually, as my wife, as my cordiality, take that time to go somewhere else? And I really deeply apologize that the conversation skipped you in such function, but from that standpoint, it is for sure unnecessary for you to participate in it if you would prefer to do something at your leisure time. And do so in a non harmful way. And always remember, matching up means underlying gender specific, sexual based role of that person that is based in your own perception of such. And from that also derived immediate role of the professional of that person, and when that is possible, competence and possibility to participate and function as such in sublimation with others, wanted sublimation because you are the partner. This is an example of non-conflictive matching up. And when in pain, as I explained, a wife cries, for instance, is harmed, then it is appropriate to match down.